I never thought I'd tell this story. In fact, I spent more than 30 years trying to forget it. But lately, I've been dreaming about it again. And every time I wake up, I feel the same smell of damp earth, the same cold, and the same sound. The shovel hitting something that wasn't soil. My name is Thomas Miller, and for most of my life, I worked as a gravedigger in a small cemetery in Ravenhill, a quiet town deep in the countryside. It was one of those old places that seemed forgotten by time, surrounded by tall pines and a stone wall covered in moss. The kind of cemetery where the wind seems to whisper the names of those long gone. I was never afraid of death. I learned early that it's just part of life, and for someone who digs graves every day, it becomes just another silent neighbor. But there was one night, more than 20 years ago, that showed me not everything buried beneath the earth is truly dead. I started working at the cemetery when I was 24 years old. My father had been the gravedigger before me, and when he got sick, I had to take his place. It was hard work, but peaceful. People only came on burial days, and the rest of the time, silence ruled. I used to say the cemetery was the calmest place in the world. But now I know, silence can hide things we're not meant to understand. My shifts usually started early, and sometimes went into the night when there were long wakes. I cleaned the graves, trimmed the weeds, and prepared the plots for the next day's burials. The administrator, a man named Mr. Collins, handled the records and spoke with the families. He was a serious man, soft-spoken, always carrying a small notebook in his hand. He used to say, every body buried there had a story, and that our job was simply to respect their silence. But there was one part of the cemetery he didn't like to visit, the old section. It was an isolated area behind a rusty wire fence. The graves there dated back to the 1800s, many of them crumbling, their names long erased. It was the most forgotten part of the cemetery, and somehow the coldest. One rainy Friday in 2002, a body arrived for an urgent burial. A man named Edward Price, age 47. Cause of death? Natural causes, according to the paperwork. But strangely, no one in town knew him. The body came from a nearby city, brought by a funeral truck along with authorization from the hospital. The coffin was plain, raw wood with no nameplate, only a number. When I asked Mr. Collins why the burial was to be done there, he said it was his own request. In his will, Edward had written that he wanted to be buried in that cemetery, near the mountains. At the time, I didn't think much of it. People have all sorts of wishes and superstitions. But what stayed in my mind was the look the funeral driver gave me before leaving. He said, "Make sure you seal that grave tight, and if you hear anything, don't go back to check." I laughed, thinking he was joking, but those words kept echoing in my head the rest of the night. The burial took place late in the evening. The rain wouldn't stop, and it was just me and Mr. Collins there. No family, no priest, no one. Just the two of us, the shovel, and the sound of rain hitting the coffin. When we finished, Mr. Collins wrote something in his notebook and told me to head home early. But I decided to stay a bit longer. Something felt off. The silence around me felt eerie. As I was about to leave, I heard a sound coming from the new grave, faint, almost like a whisper. It sounded like a voice struggling to rise from under the soil. My blood turned cold. I froze, listening. For a moment, I thought I was imagining things, until I heard it again. 3 dull knocks. Thud, thud, thud. I ran, dropped my shovel in the mud, and never looked back. Over the next few days, I tried convincing myself it was my imagination. Maybe the wind, but the wind doesn't call your name. 3 nights later, I woke up to someone knocking on my door. It was around 2 in the morning. When I opened it, no one was there. Only the distant sound of bells coming from the cemetery and the strong smell of damp earth. The next day, when I got to work, I found Edward's grave disturbed. Not fully open, but as if something had pushed the coffin lid from the inside. The soil was scattered, and the coffin empty. I froze, called Mr. Collins immediately. When he saw the grave, his face went pale. But what scared me most was what he did next. Without saying a word, he told me to rebury the empty coffin and ordered, "Don't speak of this to anyone. Understood?" I tried asking what was going on, but he kept repeating that it was better not to know. That night, I dreamed of the man from the coffin. He stood at the edge of the grave staring at me with hollow eyes and said, "I'm not done yet, Thomas." I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. And worse, there were muddy footprints on my bedroom floor. A few days later, I decided to search for answers myself. I went to the old section, the same one where Edward had been buried. While clearing the weeds, I found a broken headstone with the same last name, Price. The date, 1892. I started digging, curious, and what I found made me fall backward. Inside was another coffin, identical to Edward's, and on top of it, an iron cross engraved with strange Latin symbols. That night, I went to Mr. Collins' house. I demanded to know the truth. He looked nervous, but finally told me everything. The cemetery, he said, had been built over an old execution ground from the 19th century, and the Price family had been known for performing rituals on the bodies before burial. Edward, the man that I had buried, was the last of his bloodline, the only one left alive. He had requested to be buried with his ancestors to close the cycle. But it seemed the cycle didn't want to be closed. The following week, the cemetery began to change. Dogs refused to go near it. Flowers wilted overnight. And at night, I saw faint lights moving between the graves. One night, I heard the knocking again. But this time, it didn't come from Edward's grave. It came from many. A rhythm of dull, dry knocks beneath the ground. Thud, thud, thud. I ran and never went back. The next morning, I quit my job. Mr. Collins didn't try to stop me. He just looked me in the eyes and said, "You did the right thing, Thomas. Once they call your name, they never let you go." Years passed. I moved far away, to a small town where no one knows me. But time didn't erase the memories. Sometimes, I still wake up at night to the sound of the shovel hitting. Other times, I hear someone calling my name outside the window. And every now and then, I receive letters with no return address. Inside, there's only one sentence.
there's still a grave waiting for you. Now, as an old man, I feel my time is near, and when it comes, I ask only one thing. Don't bury me in that cemetery, because if anyone ever opens my grave, they'll see the body inside isn't mine. This was the true story of Thomas Miller, a former gravedigger who witnessed things reason can't explain. If you made it this far, take a deep breath and tell me, do you believe the dead truly rest? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you've lived through something similar, tell your story. It might be the next tale on this channel. Don't forget